Basically, the Bible is a series of books that have come together, been collected over 1,500 years it's taken for these books to come together. And as they have come together, and it's a finished work. It's made of different types of genres, different types of literature, poetry, historical narrative, letters that are written to people. It's come together, and we see this story. And it's this, the Bible has this overarching story. And it's a miracle of how it comes together and creates a story, because it has somewhere around 40 different authors and over 1,500 years that pieces of it were coming together. And it doesn't contradict itself. It's a cohesive narrative. When you step back and you look at you see a forest. When you take your eyes off of each tree and you step back, there's a forest. It's a beautiful forest. And it starts off with God, the story starts off with God creating this creation and making everything in it. And then he makes man and woman. And he gives man and woman one thing that they're supposed to not do. He makes them sort of his ambassadors, they are representing God on this creation, and we are supposed to take this creation and make it into something even better. He's given us the raw materials, and he wants us to make it like a garden, like you would take all these raw materials and make a beautiful garden out of it, and that's what he was wanting for man to do. But he told him, there's one thing I don't want you to do. He put him in a garden. He said, I don't want you to eat from this one tree over here. It's called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But at some point in time, he also created the unseen realm, the angelic realm. And there was an angel or a supernatural being named Satan, who's still around today. And he deceived one of the two in the couple and got the one to eat of that tree. And then the one got the other to eat of that tree. And God said, what did you do? I told you not to do it, but you listened to him. So he puts a curse on everybody that was involved. And the whole creation comes under this curse. But because God is holy and good and perfect and just, and when they disobeyed him, it was like an act of rebellion, like a kid who you tell, don't do this, and they do it just in spite, right? It's an act of rebellion against a perfectly good God. And so God says, okay, I'm putting a curse. I told you what would happen. Death would come as a result of this, and now it's happened. But I'm going to do something about it. I'm not just going to cast you away forever. And so the story that begins in Genesis, we see it move along, and a man named Abraham comes along who God makes some promises to. Abraham obeys him. He makes some promises to Abraham. He says, hey, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to multiply your seed. You're going to be more numerous than the stars in the sky. And Abraham is, I think, 90 years oldish when he makes this outlandish promise to him. And so, but it comes true. He has a child, and basically the storyline follows Abraham's lineage, and just a few generations down the road, we get the Israelites, which is Israel of modern day, Israel, the Israelites, who we see on the news every single day. And by the time this book, Exodus, by the time we get to Exodus, Israel has come into bondage. They have been forced into slavery by the great nation of Egypt. by the Pharaoh. For 80 years. So Israel is in Egypt for 430 years, but the last 80 years they've been slaves. And the Pharaoh has been doing some wicked stuff, killing off their male children so that they wouldn't multiply, and just all kinds of things, population control, and just slave labor and heavy burdens on the people. And God has stepped in after 400 years, just like he said he would. He steps in and says, all right, now watch. I'm about to free you. Okay? I'm about to free you from these Egyptians. So what it tells us is that God doesn't always rescue us from every little thing we find ourselves in, but yet he is a rescuer, and he will rescue in his time. And his timing is perfect. And so he rescues Israel from Egypt by confronting the Pharaoh, the most powerful man in the world. And he says, through Moses and Aaron, his spokespeople, he says, Pharaoh, you better let my people go. This is God speaking, and I'm very much paraphrasing all of this. He says, let my people go. And Pharaoh's like, no, I don't know you, God. I'm God. I'm the highest on this food chain. And so God says, okay, I already knew you were going to say that. Now I'm going to give you some signs that you're not God, and that the gods that you guys worship aren't gods. I'm God. And he sends what we now know as the 10 plagues. And it was supernatural, cataclysmic events that defy our reality. There's no way this stuff happened other than the finger of God. And as these events unfold, the magicians and the sorcerers and the people who would give Pharaoh, counsel, at some point they go, hey, Pharaoh, I think we're dealing with the real God here, and we better just listen. But Pharaoh doesn't, and he hardens his heart, and and God hardens his heart. And it's all to show God's glory to this world, because God is wanting the world to know who he is, so that all could worship the one true God. Egyptians, Israelites, Philistines, if you want, anybody around in the time, they're going to hear about God because of this supernatural series of events that take place. There's plagues, there's storms, there's turning the water into blood. There's all this stuff that takes place. And then finally, after the 10th plague, where God has warned Pharaoh and warned everybody, I am going to strike down the firstborn child in every single house, and the firstborn of the animals in every single property. But there's a way for you to escape that judgment. I want you to, on the night I'm going to do this, sacrifice a lamb, take its blood, and put it on the doorposts of your house. So that your doorposts look like this. Now, if you do that, I am going to be walking through the land with my destroying angel, and any door that doesn't have the blood of a sacrificed lamb on it, my angel's going to do his business there. And so the night came. Those who believed, after seeing all this that God has been doing, I mean, we're talking big things, big miracles, big things. They've seen it. They've lived through this period of God just ransacking Egypt, sending hail, destroying all the crops, just ransacking Egypt. And they have had plenty of time to do the math. And so Egypt and Israel, anybody in the land could do this. And by doing this, people were now identifying with this God who is looking to rescue the people from Pharaoh who has got them in slavery. So they not only know God is powerful, but they know he is good. And so they've thought about it, but yet, by doing this, they're putting themselves out there. Because if they do this, especially with the ancient Near Eastern mind at the time, the gods of those days in the surrounding nations, the gods all over the place there, they were kind of like in and out of the people's lives. And so they were putting themselves out there by doing this and going, I hope this God is as good as I believe and think he is. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to put my faith in this God. Because if this God leaves us later, Pharaoh's going to be really upset with us. And we know Pharaoh has got some power in the earthly realm. He has got some real power to do some real evil things like he had been doing. So they do it. The angel of death came and did it. And all through Egypt, there was cries. It was horrible. Literally, the firstborn died. And in the middle of the night. Now, in the preparation of all this, God also told him, be ready to go. Because when this happens, Pharaoh's going to send you guys. So, make some unleavened bread. Make your meal. Have your clothes on and shoes on as you eat this meal, because it's going to be go time. And so another step of obedience was going to have to happen. Not only would they have to put the blood on the doorpost, but they'd have to go. And that's where we're at today. It's happened, and Pharaoh has said, get out of here. Enough with your God. You guys go, worship him, get lost. You can do as you want. So, now, God tells Moses and Aaron to tell the people to, when they get to the land that he's leading them to celebrate this week-long festival in memory and commemoration of what God did that night when he created the greatest escape, the second greatest escape. We'll talk about the first greatest escape later. But he made a way, and it's probably in your Bible it says the Exodus, the heading here. And he made a way out of where there was no way for his people. It makes me think of the readiness that we as Christians are to now have, which is taught in the New Testament, because Jesus is coming back soon. We don't know when. Paul tells them to be ready, because we know very well that the day of the Lord will come just like a thief in the night, unexpectedly. Just like a thief in the night would come when nobody's expecting him. That's when Jesus is going to come back. And so we need to stay ready as Christians. And he goes on to say, let us not sleep like the rest, but stay awake and be self-controlled. So this Passover event would remind them of the readiness that they were to have before the great Exodus. And we know that we have an Exodus coming when we are finally delivered from this place and brought into the Lord's presence for once and for all. And Jesus started that Exodus for us by dying on the cross as the sacrificial Lamb of God.